Hey, it's Fanuel here, your host. Welcome back. So, have you heard of ESAL, or Engineers and Scientists Acting Locally? Well, ESAL is a national organization dedicated to increasing local civic engagement by people with backgrounds in STEM. In 2017, they conducted a civic engagement survey in which they asked engineers and scientists about their attitude toward and engagement with government. Key finding number 3, scientists and engineers face various hurdles to engaging locally. The most common barrier is a lack of knowledge about how to engage. This past January, Taylor Spicer was named first executive director of ESAL. And you guessed it, we got a chance to talk with her on the sidelines of the 2025 Science Talk Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, to better understand what ESAL is actually trying to do. Yes, Taylor will share an inside look into ESAL and how they fit into the existing civic science ecosystem. But you will also hear something we don't hear enough of: a message of hope. Mapping the ongoing work across the civic science landscape by characterizing the why, what, how, who, when, and where through talking directly with practitioners in academia, government, for-profit, and non-profit organizations. I'm Fanuel Muindi, and this is Questions of the Day. Previously on Questions of the Day.
To kind of talk about where we are in our book process and share wisdom and advice. And the organizer of the group mentioned it at a meeting, and I was just like, what? Because I needed money to help support my book, and here was, potentially $50,000 to help me write this book and pay for my translations. But I was already well into the process when that happened. So it ended up being not as big of a roadblock as I thought it was when I first found out about it. But the Sloan process is long. It ended up taking 9 months from the time that I started working on the application until when I finally got an answer. So my biggest advice to people is to start early and take your time. It's a long application.
Subscribe to access that conversation and many more.
Taylor, thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So we are at the Science Talk Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually pretty hot.
It is. Call me.
When you tell folk about ESAL, what do you tell us, especially for those who have never heard of your organization?
Yes, so I introduce us as a national nonpartisan nonprofit.
Okay.
We are folks with STEM backgrounds, various career stages, ages, identities, who are coming together around a central interest and motivation to increase local civic engagement by people in other STEM networks and with similar backgrounds.
Okay. And then what question do you normally get after that? Because it's loaded, right?
There is civic on the audience, for sure. But
so
yeah, okay.
For scientists, right?
What's local?
What's local? What's civic engagement? So break it down for us.
Yes. So part of our challenge is that we really aren't super prescriptive about the type of local civic engagement that we are trying to increase.
Okay.
But what we often present about or help people riddle out are more of the formalized ways that you can be engaged with other elected or other civic leaders who are making decisions within sort of a conventional government structure. So how do you get appointed to boards and commissions is something that we talk more about than most, because it's a structure that exists, often overlooked. It is a way to provide expertise in an advisory capacity, and you do not have to do it for your full-time job. So often people with a STEM background have something else they're doing with their day job and still want to be engaged. And often they want to share their expertise in some way. And so that tends to be the type of engagement opportunity that we bring up. But there are so many, and we've started to build out more programs that support engagement as you define it. So if you like to host local gatherings, if you like to be the one to go to other people's local events, if you want to be the one to to create your own project in your community. We're now experimenting with being a fiscal sponsor for small community grants that help you do what you see as an important thing for your community.
Is a scientist, right? So
Mhm.
STEM professional.
Yeah, that is the connector. Yes.
So there's a lot in there. But,
Yes.
so tell us about your organization. So it is mostly volunteer run, except your role, because you're a brand new ED, right? But tell us about that. How is that structured, and how does it allow you to operate and do what you do?
Yes. So right now there are actually two of us, two full-time staff, myself and a programs manager. And so we are the one you can look to. We are there. We are trying to connect all the teams. My case, trying to maintain support for the organization. And we are connecting the 45 or so volunteers who are doing the operations and the programmatic work that you see coming through ESAL. And so we have shifted in our governance practices because we were started, like many groups, as an all-volunteer group. Their tie was that most of them were AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellow alumni. They had worked at the federal level, moved away. Not everyone stays in DC, not everyone stays federal, but they still knew that there were important ways that they could impact decisions that were made in their new or former, the home they are returning to. And so they sent out a survey to their peers. What do you know about local civic engagement? What are your barriers? What do you want? What would make it easier for you to show up in your community? And so once the responses came back with, of course, time is a barrier, but also knowledge is an area that we, need more information to fill that knowledge gap. And so ESAL developed around that premise. Let's fill that information gap. The exact ways that we try to do that has really grown, but anything from storytelling, helping identify the people, organizations that are already doing work locally to help us all see ourselves as those people or folks like them that want to pursue local engagement work as a part of how we live our lives.
I see.
And then shifted toward more instructional workshops that came from learning so much from the people already doing local engagement work, identifying skill sets that are helpful for showing up and being effective, and then building out from there.
I see. So the question I have right now is thinking, where does ESAL fit into the landscape? Is NSPN, AAAS is there. What gap is it filling? Because you did the survey you were just telling me about, right? So in that, were people saying, oh, these other organizations are not doing X, Y, and Z, so that we should create ESAL? What was the insight, right, into that spacing, the gap that you saw that prompted the creation of this organization?
Yeah, I think the gap is really around understanding the complexities of engaging locally within that context, which
so hyper, like the being really
state,
local.
county, city, campus, neighborhood, district levels are what we consider to be local, so sub-federal, and understanding where decisions are made within these overlapping jurisdictions. And once you've riddled that out, how do you show up to present your voice and what you have to share that is in a way that's a part of the beautiful tapestry that are our communities, acknowledging that science is one part of what is considered relevant evidence for making decisions, but finding out how to get in there, because when you are engaged locally, you can have a disproportionate impact because you can build these direct relationships in ways that you may not be able to do federally. So you can build the trust, build the connection, and become more of a reliable source to those who are making decisions. Again, assuming it's not your full-time job.
Right. But then going back to NSPN, NSPN. This is why I love doing this.
Okay.
This is why I love to do this, right? We really get into the weeds. The landscape. Where does ESAL fit into this tapestry?
So, especially at the time, there was a lot of focus on pipelines to the federal government. How do we get more people with STEM backgrounds, productive, good work within the federal government through fellowships, but also full-time jobs and careers? And the recognition was that there were not the direct pipelines, incentives, nudges, directions to get more folks to look around them for local engagement. Yes, there are so many people with backgrounds in STEM who work for local governments. They may just have not been acknowledged in the same way as those in the federal government, but they do the work that we all rely on every day to commute, to have good drinking water, to have all the things that bring us good quality of life. There are so many engaged STEM folks already, and so if that's what you're looking for, great. But jobs are sometimes easier to identify than maybe some of the other opportunities for still sharing you have.
And I always ask my guests this, in terms of how you then track the impact that you're trying to create. Your founder and chair writes, actually in your hiring, there was a post about your hiring, this idea of committing to scaling ESAL's impact. I was curious, can you tell us about how you're framing, how you're tracking the impact, and what does it mean for your organization?
Yeah, it's a great question. And really what has happened and how it's happened is an organic trickling out, people turning to invite their members of their network to seek what ESAL has, right? So try a resource, show up, tell us how it went. Apply for this thing, we'll support you as you try to get appointed to this commission. But it's very often a one-on-one exchange. And so when we talk about scaling our impact, what I'm trying to do now is to give us the platform so that all the individuals who care, do this work wherever they are, now have an easier way to find each other. Because so much of what the work has been relying on is individuals connecting individuals to each other. Now the network, through a platform called Mighty Networks, people are through using AI nudged toward each other.
Oh, I see.
So
you're
based on place,
facilitating that. Nice.
so that will launch in July.
Oh, okay.
It's something we're piloting right now with our volunteer team. We get it right before we invite everyone else to join it. But
so then what does impact mean? The number of connections people are making, or collaborative projects on the ground? What is that? Is there such a thing that you're tracking that will tell you if you see this thing happening, what we are doing is working? Is there such a thing?
Yes, all of the above. But I think we have never had a clear way to track what type of engagement everyone is doing. So when you are onboarded onto the platform, you have the chance to self-select, tell us what you do. Mine say nonprofit board member, delivered public comments, sort of listing some of the ways that I have done engagement work, and then anyone can tell us that. So that data set will be one that we could track over time. We do not have it now. So it's all been individual case studies, just who we've featured. Yes, there are engagement metrics sort of through workshops, but so many of us who host workshops have a hard time tracking the impact beyond how people felt about the content.
Yeah, and then online you have several workshops, right? 70 plus workshops. Is a nice little factoid sheet on your website. 1,200 participants, right? So, and these are one-time type of events. I think this is what you're alluding to, that we want to track it over a longer period of time, right? What's the challenge there? Is it funding, lack thereof, or you need personnel to do this, right? It's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, we have evaluation tools. I'm not sure the issue is capacity, but it really is having that contact information. So many of the workshops that we deliver are at in-person events. We are not the ones who receive the contact list. It's the coordinator of the event, understandably. And if we don't get someone's contact through them, there's not the mechanism for follow-up. So a lot of what we have, again, is self-reported, or we notice you doing great work and we reach out to you, but it hasn't, in our case, been tracked systematically. So that's another reason why I'm excited for this platform, is because when I look out into the world of what is researched about local engagement or people with backgrounds in STEM, I don't get a lot of information about outcomes. I've asked similar questions to quite a few people,
Okay.
and I don't get a whole lot of answers outside of what it looks like to present scientific evidence to state level policymakers, which is an important part, but there's a lot more that I think we do and have impacts on that we've just not really had a coordinated effort to try to track and understand.
Until now.
We're trying. Yeah, I mean, July onward,
July
hopefully,
onwards, yeah,
we start
yeah.
to build some of that information, because we've been saying a bunch of things that in reality may not be how folks want to engage. If you are not interested in boards or commissions, great. Well, I want to know what it is that you are doing so that we can help other people do it too. If it feels like it's a good fit for folks in this audience, great. Let's support more of it. So I think we'll get unique, original data that is well beyond what ESAL can take credit for sure, but it at least gives us a way to understand this huge amorphous cloud of local civic engagement that so many people do because they care.
Right.
You know, and I know they don't do it so that they can be tracked and appreciated and all that stuff, but it is a part of justifying why this work matters, why incentive structures could change, you know, all the things that are barriers to engaging. We can start to justify reasons why we might reshape some of those.
So I want to go back to my earlier question about the ecosystem, right? Because you were talking about evaluation. It's a challenge, right? You want to track longer term. What have other organizations, what have they done to try and capture those insights? And do you think what you're going to be doing is different to what they're doing on that front?
So at the local level, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the local, because that's the focus of you guys, right? Because you mentioned that multiple times, like hyper local, in fact, right?
Yes. So for the STEM community in particular, I'll say I look to the Eagleton Institute because they have the Scientists in State Politics database. It's one database that identifies folks with STEM backgrounds that allows for jumping off research questions. We know the who because of the database.
Okay.
And then we can start to do more analysis of the types of policies that they sponsor, co-sponsor, how their voting records may or may not be influenced by their STEM background. But they also have their own research that they do on governors that's relevant, just helping people understand the state level politics, concentrations of power, checks and balances. So from an intellectual standpoint of, you know, how should a governorship work? What are the differences that you might consider? I find that they have useful local, leaf-focused, state-level research. So I think it is pretty telling when I can say that Georgia has the second highest number of STEM-trained professionals who are elected officials. Most people wouldn't have guessed that. It does include medicine.
I wouldn't either, yeah.
It does include medicine. So yes, we have a lot of medical research institutions and higher education. So in some ways you can speculate as to why that might be, but I can tell you that number because of that database. And so I think the other types of research buckets that a lot of folks have spent much more time on are, what are the impacts of presenting evidence to policymakers? What are those outcomes?
That's downstream, right? So now you've got the STEM folk that are engaged. Right? Now you're talking about even at the next layer, say, okay, you've done this part. What is the impact downstream even further, right? Earlier I mentioned capacity, and I chose that word very carefully because I've heard a lot of times it's, listen, we would love to do that type of analysis to see whether what we're doing is working, but I don't have the capacity, the personnel, right, to do this. And so I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about that and how your peer level organization, NSPN or others, how they thought about it. Are you guys talking about this?
Yeah, okay, so a few questions there. I would say that because of the structure that ESAL has built, recruiting volunteers, creating supports for their growth as individuals, professionals, and seeking their time and talents to increase our impact or the ways that we can do our work, I have built in some roles for these types of research projects. And I will say that we are working together with NSPN because we have a SciPaul scholar that has just joined the team to contribute to the exact state level research that I just described. So while we may not be as organizations directly doing that type of impact research together, we are still finding ways again to share the assets that allow for it to happen across the network somewhere. Eagleton Institute knows that we appreciate their database, plan to see what research questions we can fill out answers to, given that they did the legwork to identify the who, the people who are engaging. So there are collaborations and discussions like that that allow for us to feel confident that we have the support we need to pursue this type of research. I will say the repository on evidence-based research that I was given was from the Pew Charitable Trust. They had coordinated multiple efforts between funders and researchers to bring more clarity to what actually happens when folks bring evidence to policymaking. So that is not ours, but again, hopefully we can add to it from our local perspective in a way that makes it justifiable for us to devote some management time to volunteers. And now our science policy scholar who is doing this as a part of their credential for that program.
It's a nice collaboration there that you've set up. But there is a database on your website, though, of these are your members that are locally engaged. Is that what the database shows?
So the local STEM database is actually the people and organizations that we featured through the original content that we write.
I see.
As well as programs that members have submitted. So you could submit your own local engagement or local organization that has a way for people with STEM backgrounds to engage.
I see. Oh, so you're a connector of sorts for that, right?
Mapping it out so that if you are moving across the state, you're unfamiliar, you can quickly sort of see the organizations that we've been able to highlight that you could connect with. So it's not a complete database because it's so content heavy, I see. Right? And so that's why we also take contributions for filling the gaps that we very much inevitably have.
I see. It's a lot of work, right? And we were talking offline that this work can't happen without support of funders. Right? So I'm curious. I want to go back to my first question I asked you and see how you phrase it this time.
Oh, great.
When you approach funders, what do you tell them about what ESAL does and its impact?
Yeah. So I see ESAL as an accessible organization that is our common tie is creating a welcoming space for anyone that considers themselves to have a STEM background and who wants to do local civic engagement work. You do not have to be affiliated with any professional network. You do not have to have any particular degree, experiences. You are welcome. Our resources are available for free. We are now building this platform where you can meet people in this broader network so that the relationship part of it now can become a part of filling information and instructional gaps so you have what you need to feel ready to show up in whatever way makes sense. So we just keep trying to widen and open the tent to whomever, is finding whoever is resonating with that identity and that purpose. We want you to come.
So funders, I'm assuming funders like this, right? Because you've gotten some funding.
I hope
so. But I wonder then if a funder might be thinking, okay, but then what is different to what NSPN is doing, right? And the value that they are adding that is different to what you're providing.
Yeah.
So this is a funder thinking this,
Yeah.
hypothetically, what would you tell her?
Yes. So the distinction I see is that we are not squarely focused on early career scientists and researchers. Yes, we had some in our network,
I see.
but again, the accessibility, whomever wants to do this work, we want to be engaged with you. I think there are different training approaches. NSPN focuses on the different ways that you can apply your scientific knowledge with society as a communicator through policy, diplomacy, and writing. We're focused a little bit more on the skills and the information you need to show up in your local community. So just our training content and format is different. And we are not a chapter-based organization. I might have mentioned already that a lot of people who find ESAL, they're an individual. They live somewhere, or they're not necessarily on a campus where they can quickly connect with other people. So we have to have more flexible structures and able to adapt to fit various needs.
Just to changes, right? And talk about change. We are going through one right now, right? Just thinking about holistically, right, from the federal level, right? How do you foresee that impacting ESAL, if at all? Because those changes, I mean, they're permeating and making its way through, right?
Yes.
How is ESAL approaching that change?
Yes, so definitely the big question that we talk about all the time, but really we are acknowledging that a lot of the skill sets and the expectations that we have outlined as ways to engage are reliant on historical federal support and ways of balancing the government, checks and balances, healthy democratic practices, encouraging civic engagement. And so right now we're seeing actions taken by the Trump administration at the federal level that are directly impacting scientists at the federal level, of course, and also are leading to cuts in grants and support for communities. So it's all showing up. Where we live, how we will be navigating the changes to income, opportunities, services. And so the more that we remain open to each other, I think the better off we'll be in navigating these changes. So really right now, ESAL is focused on a message of hope. We are all going through this together. I can't fully understand exactly what you're experiencing until you tell me, and I want to hear it. And in doing that, we've already built a link in the resilience chain that allows us to show up for each other in whatever way whatever form that might look like. So there are ways in which we don't exactly know how we will pivot our content or maybe even our programs, but the message of hope will need to tie it all together, as well as that effort to bring individuals together. We don't want anyone to feel like they don't have a place, they don't have a connection, they don't have a network they can't look to. And so we're really trying to fill that gap with this next phase of our scaling and intentional focus on not letting any one person feel like they don't have what they need to be a part of a network like this.
I wish we can just keep on talking, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, we need to have you back. That's my thing right now. So other things you're focusing on is making what you're doing sustainable for the long haul, right? Because ESAL want to be around, and current challenges that they're there, but I mean, sounds to me like ESAL is this listening space, right? You guys are listening to your members, what they're telling you. You guys will adapt accordingly, right? Your workshops,
that's the plan.
courses, you will adapt accordingly based on what their needs are locally. So thinking this fast forward now, 5-10 years from now, well, what is the vision for ESAL, right? Have you guys thought about that? I know you have a strategic plan in your website.
Yes.
Can you draw some things, key things from that and share with us what those plans are?
Yes, so a couple things come to mind. We had really wanted to spend more time on being the ones who direct our attention, build more relationships with elected local civic leaders so that we can help bridge the two groups of people, folks who are elected civic leaders and those who are in the network as people with backgrounds in STEM.
Which you can track, right? Because with this new network of yours, you'll be able to track.
Soon.
Okay, cool. So then we need to have you back when the data starts flowing in. I want to hear about that data.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. But it's similar to what Scholar Strategy Network does. They facilitate more directly the connections between elected officials and their social scientist members. We want to be a part of the process of making those relationships more natural, more common, and more encouraged from both sides.
Okay.
But we think we need to focus on building up our network first. But that is
a network. I mean the number of members connected in the network. So right now, how big is it?
We have about 2,000 folks.
2,000 right now.
From what we track.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you want to grow that.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes. And I think another part of this will be, I'll dream that the current moment, our members tell us we want more support for what we do in our communities. So I imagine us being more of a pass-through type organization where we can continue to raise funds for members of the network to do the work that they see as critical and have heard from other members in their community that it is important.
Okay.
Because we try not to be prescriptive for any place, any person, but trust that members do understand more about where they live and what communities need. So,
And is there a fee to join the membership?
there is not.
Okay. But though to be a fiscally sponsored, I'm assuming there's some agreement.
There is an agreement. Yes.
That sets you up for your sustainability plans. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, that is in a pilot phase right now. But can we generate a little bit of revenue by being a fiscal sponsor for folks who are trying to secure, in our case, small community grants that we help administer? So we offer that to our volunteers right now in our pilot phase.
I see.
And have successfully won a grant, a small one for some community cleanups and tobacco product collection bins.
And you're providing the pass-through funding. Is that the modality for that?
So because it's a pilot, we are holding the funds, administering them, and helping for free, but wanted to see how it would go if it felt like we could be useful in that way, and luckily won the grant to try it out. And
are you able to share where's it coming from, this funding?
Yeah, the Ava Community Energy Foundation. Ooh. Sorry.
We'll put the link below. Okay.
But our member in San Leandro is the one who deserves all the credit because she identified the opportunity, applied for it, and carried out multiple community cleanups, and is now citing where these collection bins can go.
So I can see that being an attraction for members to say, okay, I can have this umbrella, right, that can support these, call them microgrants maybe, that you can imagine you guys disseminating them, right? So a bigger funder could say, okay, you guys can get to the local level even tighter, so I'll give you guys a holding tank, right? Here's some funding, and you guys can fund 50 or something, right? I'm thinking about STEM for Society or Science for Society. I hope I said that right, or Society for Science, one of them. They provide these grants to various organizations, nonprofits. They've given million something dollars since 2016. That's an interesting model, right? Been funded by the Salmons Foundation and Bergeron and some other one. But it's an interesting model in this case, right? For you guys to adopt that similar modality.
And so until that big funder comes along, we have chosen the fiscal sponsorship model because it allows for us to apply for more grants to support the projects.
And you want more grants, right? To be clear.
We do, but I mean, in this case, so far, it's not that we're generating revenue from a percentage of managing it. But in the longer, more interim term, I think it might be a small revenue generating opportunity that also allows for individuals to apply for grants that they wouldn't have access to do nonpartisan work in their communities.
Of course.
Yes. In ways that are important to them and to their community members. So.
And for someone that is looking to partner with you at this moment in time, maybe it's another nonprofit, right? That's heard your conversation, say, okay, I want to collaborate with you. Are there specific points right now that you can say, okay, this is an area where we're seeking active partnerships in? Can you tell us what those are?
Active partnerships.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a lot of ideas.
Tell us a few.
A lot of
Not all of them.
ideas.
One or two.
We write a lot of original content, always looking for more content
Okay,
partners or
okay.
outlets. We, of course, are always seeking funding. We are in talks with some folks about how we might apply for joint grants as a group of nonprofits in the science policy world especially. We are always looking for local partnerships with folks who have identified that STEM expertise is something they would be looking for and just need a connection to. I'm also looking for national partners that do local work. So often an example is an organization that has a national affiliation, local chapters, they are seeking volunteers. I want to make those connections more apparent, because we find that a lot of our members want to start by volunteering somewhere. So let's connect those asks with the networks that we have.
Taylor.
Those are a few.
Those are a
I
few.
have more.
You have more, for sure. That's why we need to have you back. Number one, thank you so much for sharing these insights. And it's amazing that, looking at a website alone is not sufficient. We really got to be able to talk to someone face to face like this. This is why I love doing this. So we need to have you back. And as you get new data, please come back. We would love for you to tell us what it means for you.
I see. All right. Yes.
Choose this as your platform to share your data.
Ooh, okay.
Because we would love to share that out loud to the other scholars, the practitioners who are looking for partner funders, want to partner with you.
Yeah.
So I hope some of them reach out to you.
Yeah, and maybe our science policy scholar just might want to share what they're learning.
Till next time.
All right.